Baby, maturing is knowing that a white man can change my life with his money, and he can take it from me with his money. And then he can go get a motherfucking lawyer with his money and get away with that shit.
My money's still on the husband, and not because he's white, but because this was her birthday trip. She went and got a new wig, got her lashes did, nails did, toes did, picked out outfits, and created an itinerary for her birthday. She had no idea that this man was going to propose to her in such a beautiful place like Africa. She would have been ecstatic. It's my birthday and my man is proposing to me? Hell yeah. I do not feel like anywhere in her mind it would have been, it's my birthday, my man is here, he didn't propose to me, this is a great time to just end it all.
You ever notice how sometimes a story gets told so clean, so quickly, that it almost feels like you're not supposed to question it? Like everything is wrapped up before anyone even has time to process what really happened? That's exactly what's going on with Ashlee Jenae's case, because on the surface, it was presented like a tragic but simple situation until people started paying attention to the details. And once you slow it down, once you actually look at the timeline, the behavior, the gaps, it stops feeling simple real fast. It starts feeling like something isn't being said. Before we get into this, go ahead and like and subscribe, because this story is still developing, and every new detail is changing how people see it, and you're going to want to stay on top of it as things unfold.
I just spoke to the family of Ashlee Robinson. She's the 31-year-old influencer who was on vacation with her fiance celebrating her birthday. He actually proposed on the trip. But something crazy happened. She was having a good time. Her family said she was very excited to be there, shared pictures with the family, FaceTimed them when she was proposed to. But they released a statement saying that Ashlee was found unconscious in her villa and was rushed to a local hospital where her death was confirmed hours later.
My daughter Ashlee, she's no longer here with us, and we're trying to find out why.
Now let's get into it. Ashlee Jenae wasn't just on a random vacation, this was her birthday trip, something she clearly put time, money, and energy into. She got her hair done, lashes done, nails, outfits, everything lined up like someone who's excited about life, not someone who's planning to check out of it. And then on top of that, her boyfriend, Joe McCann, proposes to her. Not just anywhere, but in Zanzibar. A whole destination moment, the kind of thing people dream about. And from everything we've seen, she was happy, posting, smiling, FaceTiming family, letting people in on that moment. That energy matters, because people keep coming back to it. She didn't look like someone struggling in silence. She looked like someone stepping into something new. And then, everything flips. Suddenly, she's found unresponsive in the villa. Joe says he found her. Joe says he called for help. And almost immediately, the story gets framed as something that explains itself. But when you start pulling at it, when you stop accepting it at face value, that's when the problems start. Because the first thing that doesn't sit right is the timeline. Reports are saying there was around an 11-hour delay before authorities were contacted. 11 hours. That's not a small delay. That's not a moment of shock. That's not, I didn't know what to do. That's a stretch of time, long enough for things to happen, for decisions to be made, for a situation to change.
She was starting the next chapter of her life. She called us and FaceTimed us to share with us her travel.
Ashlee's mother says she never would have expected that less than a week later, her daughter would be dead. On April 8th, she says Ashlee called saying she and her fiancé got into an argument and were moved to separate rooms. The next day, she received another call, this time from her fiancé.
He told me that Ashlee did something to herself and that she was being taken to the hospital. I said, what happened when? And he told me it had been 11 hours prior.
Hours later, the luxury resort the couple was staying at called saying that Ashlee passed away.
And naturally, people are asking what was happening during those hours. Because when you find someone you love in that condition, you don't wait. You react instantly. You call, you scream, you get help. That's instinct. So when there's a gap like that, it doesn't just raise eyebrows. It raises questions that don't go away. And then you add the argument. Reports say they had a serious fight before everything happened, serious enough that they were put in separate rooms. That alone shifts the entire tone of the story. Now, it's not just a happy couple on a dream trip, it's a couple with tension, with conflict, with something going on behind the scenes that nobody saw in those curated posts. and people start asking, what was that argument about? How bad did it get? What was said? Because those moments matter, especially when something happens right after. And this is where Joe starts coming under real scrutiny, because the image that was presented at first starts to crack the more you look at it. At first, he's painted as this successful guy, crypto money, business moves, someone funding a lifestyle. But then, reports come out saying his company took major losses, that deals fell through, that things weren't as solid as they seemed. And suddenly that image of stability turns into something else, something more pressured, more unstable. And when money gets involved, especially when things aren't going well, it changes dynamics. It creates tension, it creates arguments, it creates situations where people aren't who they pretend to be online. Then you start hearing about his past. Allegations of previous relationships ending badly, claims of aggressive behavior.
We're not too sure what happened. That's what we're trying to find out. I got 2 emails today from the embassy in Zanzibar. They said the investigation is still ongoing. That we have not determined the cause of death yet at all. An investigation still ongoing and still pending right now. So there has nothing official has been released. That's what we're trying to find out. We just want answers. We just think it's very odd that our daughter is traveling with Joe and we don't hear anything from Joe. To me, that's very odd. And initial call that she got from Joe was 11 hours after something had transpired in the room. And that's very odd. 11 hours later,
11 hours.
Something had transpired, and Joe just relayed to Yolanda that Ashlee was okay and she was stable and she was okay and don't worry about it.
But that she was at the hospital.
Yes.
Patterns that don't just show up out of nowhere, and people start connecting dots, not because they want to jump to conclusions, but because the pattern feels familiar. And then comes the part that really sticks with people, his behavior after everything happened. Because instead of grieving publicly, instead of acknowledging her, instead of showing any kind of visible emotion, he goes silent, completely silent. No statement, no tribute, nothing. He wipes her from his social media, cuts off communication with her family, and disappears. And that silence, it's not neutral, it feels intentional. Because even if someone processes grief differently, completely erasing someone you were just engaged to doesn't sit right with people. It feels like avoidance. It feels like distance. It feels like there's something he doesn't want to address. And then when people go back to his original statements, that's when things start getting even more uncomfortable. Because certain details don't stay consistent. When exactly did he find her? When exactly did he call for help? What happened in those hours before anything was reported? And why does it feel like the story slightly shifts depending on how it's told? Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that immediately blows everything open, but just enough to make people pause. And that's all it takes. Because once people feel like a story is shifting, they stop trusting it. And once trust is gone, everything gets questioned. Now her family is speaking out, saying this doesn't make sense, saying she was happy, saying she had plans. And while people always debate what someone was really feeling internally, the context here is what makes it different. The timing is what makes it different. You don't go from celebrating an engagement in a place like Zanzibar on your birthday, after planning everything, after showing excitement to your family, to suddenly ending everything hours later without something happening in between, something that changed the energy completely. And that's the missing piece people are focused on. What happened in that gap? What happened after that argument? What happened in those 11 hours? Because right now, that's where everything feels off. And as more attention builds around this case, it's not just online speculation anymore. Authorities are reportedly taking a deeper look. The timeline, the relationship, the inconsistencies, all of it. And once that process starts, every detail matters. Every statement gets re-examined. Every gap gets questioned. And if there are changes in the story, even small ones, they don't go unnoticed. They get amplified, they get analyzed, and they start shaping how the entire situation is viewed. And that's where we are right now. A story that was initially presented as straightforward is now being pulled apart piece by piece. A timeline that seemed simple is now filled with gaps. And a narrative that people were told to accept is now being questioned from every angle. So now the question isn't just what happened, it's why does it feel like his story changed? Because if it did, that means there's a version of events we haven't heard yet. And in cases like this, that's where everything turns. That's where things stop being quiet. That's where the truth, whatever it is, eventually starts forcing its way out. So yeah, this story, it's not done, not even close. And the more people look at it, the harder it's going to be to ignore what doesn't add up. And what makes this even more unsettling is how quickly the narrative tried to settle before anyone really had time to question it. That alone is why people aren't letting this go, because when something is truly clear, it doesn't need to be rushed past, it can stand on its own. But this keeps unraveling the more you look at it. Every new detail doesn't close the case, it opens it wider, and at some point, someone is going to have to explain the parts that don't fit. Because right now, it's not just about what happened in that villa, it's about everything that came before it, everything that happened during those missing hours, and everything that's being left unsaid after. And those are the kinds of gaps that don't stay buried for long.